Hey Disney fans, I'm cooking from today's Disney Official Parks Cookbook, and this recipe is actually inspired from one of the resorts, the Vero Beach Resort, and is a BLT Flatbread. I'll show you a picture here in the back so you can kind of see the picture that they provided in the cookbook. So basically this is a flatbread slash pizza with a BLT flavor to it. It sounds really interesting, but I'm gonna say I can tell from when I get to the final rankings, this one's gonna rank high in terms of ingredients. There are a lot of steps involved in this one to make it, but the good thing is that you can make a lot of this stuff ahead of time and have it prepped and ready to go, so it's a little bit easily even assembly later, which is actually kind of what I'm doing. It says you can make it the day ahead. I'm actually making it like early afternoon because I'm planning to serve it for dinner tonight. But there are things. There's a garlic aioli where you have to basically roast the whole clove of garlic in the oven, then you mix it with some other ingredients and you get this little paste that you spread over the flatbread. There's caramelized onions, so you have to caramelize some onions on the stovetop, and it does say you can make them ahead of time and refrigerate them. And then there is a marinated tomato salad, and again, that's a tomato salad with some garlic and basil and a few other things that you can make ahead and refrigerate as well until you're ready to use it. It says you can make those three things up to a day ahead of time, so this is definitely good for the prep work. And then on top of it, there's also a fennel arugula salad. Now, I will say I don't like fennel. So I actually skipped the fennel in this. I don't know if that will bite us or not. I don't really think so. I like arugula. I think there's also some, you can use endives, which I end up using. I think it said frisee lettuce or frisee lettuce. I'm not sure how you pronounce that. And there's a few different lettuce types out there that kind of qualify as that. I think like endive, chicory, they're kind of the same thing as what they did. And I found endive at my grocery store, so that's what I used. And then of course the flatbread with some cheese and things like that. So we're gonna start finishing prepping all the things I can prep now, and then later tonight I'll assemble the salad and the flatbread and we'll see how it goes. So watch what comes next.
So here I'm preparing the garlic to be roasted in the oven. I'm gonna add a little bit of olive oil to it, making sure it's nice and coated. Wrap it in aluminum foil, and then I'm going to toss it in the oven.
All right, I thinly sliced my onions. I got a really big onion. I kind of cut it into half. It says thinly sliced, but I want to caramelize them, so I'm going to add these to the pan. Now to add some coarse salt. This is actually a thicker kosher salt that I got. And some fresh ground pepper. It doesn't give an amount, it just basically says to add some. I seem to taste, so I'm just kind of covering it. Spatula, handy. You can kind of see my onions there. All right, I'm going to turn this down. It basically says to cook it on a very low heat to get them really nice and caramelized for about 30 minutes. Okay, first, if you hear some noise in the background, just disregard it. I'm actually caramelizing the onions in a pan while I make the garlic aioli sauce. I also have my dishwasher running, so you may hear that in a little bit as well. Anyway, I've got my roasted garlic out of the oven here, and I'm going to mix it with a few other ingredients that it calls for. But it basically says to squeeze the garlic out of the skins and mash with a fork. So I'm going to squeeze the garlic. Oh, still a little toasty. Let it cool for a little bit, but my house smells very much. Okay, that is a little hot. Okay, I thought I let it a proper amount of time to cool. Did before, obviously didn't, so I'm gonna do it again. It's still a little warm, but I can definitely tell it's a lot more manageable. So I'm just gonna squeeze all the garlic out of there. You don't even really feel it until you like go to squeeze out the paste. I have to admit, it's been a long time since I cooked with garlic. I'm one of those, I know fresh garlic is great in recipes, but I just buy those jars of the pre-minced garlic and water, and I think I may even mention that in another video, and I'm like, I know that's blasphemous again to some of you. I know I say that sometimes things are blasphemous to certain cookers out there, but Again, I'm working from a Disney cookbook geared for everyday people. This isn't really geared for your people that are trying to master the art of French cuisine cooking or Julia Child or anything like that. All right, oh, I actually got a little bit of stuff in there. Rinse my hands real quick. And then it says whisk together with some other ingredients. I got those prepared here and ready to go. All right, this is whisked together. Ooh, it's got an interesting smell, all these ingredients. So this is basically the sauce for the flatbread or the pizza, whatever you want to call it. Okay, and it's all whisked together. So basically what I'm going to do now is let the onions finish caramelizing. Put this in the fridge till later, and I already made the marinated tomato salad, but you'll probably see a video of that coming next. Now, it said to use 2 medium tomatoes. I actually had to get tomatoes for a few other things, so I got this pack of Roma tomatoes, and they're a little bit smaller. So I'm using 4 of them as opposed to 2 of them. Some garlic. It says to add some coarse salt to taste, so I'm just going to put a little bit in, just to kind of give it a little cover there. The last thing I need to add is some basil, and I have this basil plant. I actually bought it not too long ago for something else, and you can, if you look closely, you can see towards the bottom some of the leaves are starting to die, so this is a good way for me to use up this plant as it's at the end of its life. It's time to put the flatbread together. Start by spreading the garlic stuff. All right, the sauce is bacon. Provolone. Now the provolone I had to shred a block. They don't make shredded provolone. Sliced onions. Flatbread needs to bake at 450 for how long? 6 to 8 minutes.
Here's the flatbread out of the oven. I have my lettuce salad prepared that I'll add on top and give it a taste test. And here it is with the lettuce salad on top.
Okay, so I added the lettuce on top for my BLT because you need lettuce for a BLT, and it's been cooling a couple of minutes, so let's give it a bite here. You know, that's actually not bad. I was a little hesitant about this. The garlic and stuff really kind of comes through, but it actually kind of blends well together. But, you know, first initial thoughts, not too terrible, but we'll kind of sit down and eat it for dinner and come back later with final thoughts and review. Aloha, Stitch, my favorite character. And today is just to kind of give the final thoughts and reviews on this BLT flatbread from the Disney Parks Cookbook. And overall, I did enjoy it. We took an initial bite and it's like, oh, that's actually surprisingly really good. And we did eat it. Me and my husband both did like it. But I will say one comment is just, it was a little bit too garlicky. Like, I don't know, if you like garlic, I don't dislike garlic, but I don't like it when garlic overpowers the flavor or something. And it kind of overpowered this a little bit. There is garlic in the sauce that went on the flatbread, but there was also some fresh garlic in that tomato topping. So I think it was just maybe a little too much. I think if there was none in the tomato, or if it was scaled back there, or maybe scaled back a little bit in the aioli or the sauce that you spread on the flatbread, it would have been a little bit more enjoyable. And, you know, in terms of like the bacon and stuff, I covered it up in there, and I think I could have probably added a little bit more because I felt like the bacon got a little lost in that. You know, as a BLT, you really expect to taste the bacon, but I kind of found myself struggling to find the bacon while I was eating the flatbread. But overall, me and my husband really did like it, and we did enjoy it. We found it very tasty, unique, and something different. But let's get into my rating scale. Now, as always, I give it into 3 categories. The first category I rate is the ingredients, and that is on a scale of 1 to 5, with 1 being very few, simple, easy to find, inexpensive ingredients, with 5 being maybe several harder to find, more expensive ingredients. And I'm gonna rate this one a 4, maybe a 4.5. I mean, especially compared to the other recipes in this cookbook, there's a long list of ingredients here. And it's not that any of them are really hard to find. I'm just kind of looking over them again real quick, but they add up. Like, you know, you have the bacon, you have the fresh garlic, you have the arugula. There was, it says frisee lettuce, which is basically like, I think endive is what I ended up buying. You know, tomatoes, fresh basil, like it's a lot that adds up. And some of the stuff is probably staples you have in your kitchen, but you know, bacon, the cheese, and it just kind of gets up there a little bit in price. Now I'm going to rate the difficulty of making this recipe on a scale of 1 to 5, with 1 being easy and 5 being difficult. And I'm going to put this one pretty high at like a 4, 4.5. Now, to most expert chefs out there, this would probably not be super hard. It's really not like super complicated, but I'm kind of rating it based on the other recipes in this cookbook. And there's a lot of steps in this, so it's very time consuming. You have to first make the garlic aioli. You have to caramelize the onions. Then you have to do the marinated tomatoes that go on top. Then you've got the salad with the arugula and all that. And it's supposed to call for fennel, which I think I mentioned. I didn't put the fennel in there. I just don't like fennel, so I skipped that part of it. But you have to make that, and then you have to assemble the flatbread, you know, and if you got to cook the bacon. If you didn't buy pre-cooked bacon, it says cooked bacon. I actually just ended up buying pre-cooked bacon because I was just out there. But I mean, it took me some time. This was a couple-hour project that I dedicated to this flatbread, and it was good, but now it's like I have to question, was it worth all that time and effort? And that's where I get into my final rating scale. On a scale of 1 to 5 would be, would I make this again? With a 1 being never and a 5 being definitely, you know, I kind of look at it also as like a 0 to 100%. And I have to be honest, I think I'm going to give it like a 2 to a 2.5. So there's, you know, maybe like a 25% chance I'll make it again. Again, we did enjoy it. My husband liked it, and he's like, yeah, I would eat that again. But I'm looking at the time I put into it, the money I put into it, and I'm like, I think I'd almost rather just go buy a pizza or a flatbread from a store, because it would cost me probably a lot less money and a lot less of my time. But it was tasty. And again, if I was maybe looking to make something different for people to impress them, because, you know, it is a different type of flatbread than what you do find out there at restaurants, I could see whipping this together maybe just to do it, but it's probably not gonna be something I'm really gonna struggle to go out of my way. But again, like most of these recipes, I am glad I made it. I'm glad I enjoyed it, but probably won't make it into my everyday meal rotation.